I thought we had the perfect marriage, until my wife told me she needed one night with another man to feel complete. What she didn't know was how far I'd go once she crossed that line. As I was driving to work that morning, my mind kept circling back to the conversation Emily started during dinner the night before. It wasn't a brand new topic, we'd discussed it before, but lately it seemed to be coming up more often. I couldn't figure out why it was on her mind so much or what exactly made it so significant to her. She'd asked me once again how many women I'd been with before we became exclusive. And more than that, she wanted to know if I ever thought about those women while we were in bed together, if they ever crossed my mind when we were being intimate. I mean, honestly, what else could I say but a firm, absolutely not? We've been married 5 years now. Sure, it's not been a flawless ride, but in my eyes we had something really solid, built on trust, mutual respect, real love, great physical chemistry, and genuine friendship. To me, those were the pillars of a meaningful relationship, and I always thought Emily felt the same way. I truly believed we had it good. Stable jobs that paid well enough, a home we were proud of, and a marriage that, from my view, checked all the important boxes. But the thing about Emily is that once she plants an idea in her mind, she tends to latch on and not let go. She's always been confident in her opinions, especially when it came to gray areas that didn't come with hard facts. That confidence often made her incredibly stubborn. When she believed something, no amount of reasoning would usually change her mind. We got married right out of college, and before that, we'd been dating exclusively for our last 2 years on campus. So no, Emily hadn't gone through a phase of dating lots of different people, sexually or otherwise. But she was full of life, social, open-hearted, and always upfront in our relationship. Our sex life hadn't waned either. It was still exciting, passionate, even adventurous. Lately, there had been a few evenings when she'd come home from work and practically pounced on me. The last time it happened, I remember how quickly things escalated. Her hands were all over me before we'd even made it to the bedroom. And when we undressed, I noticed her underwear was already damp. Whatever had gotten into her, it was intense, like something had lit a fire in her she couldn't put out. After one of those almost primal encounters, as we lay there catching our breath, I remember teasing her, saying, "Emily, did you forget about the rest of the world for a second there?" That was insane. We had just finished making love and I wasn't trying to start a fight, but since the moment felt raw and open, I decided to ask. "Emily, I'm not trying to dig at you, but since we're on the topic, what exactly got you so worked up tonight? You practically ripped my shirt off the second you walked through the door." Her whole body seemed to stiffen like I'd touched a nerve. There was a flicker of something in her eyes. Guilt? Worry? Maybe both. She shot back quickly. "Well, if me being incredibly turned on by you is a problem, then maybe that's your issue, not mine." That defensiveness hit me like a slap. I could feel the tension rise between us and I didn't let it slide. "Emily," I said gently, trying to stay calm, "I saw the shift in your face the second I asked. That guilt, it's written all over you. And honestly, your tone says more than your words." She took a breath and looked away like she was wrestling with something inside. And then, almost out of nowhere, she said it. "I think part of me feels like I missed out, Billy. You know, like I never really had the chance to explore or go a little wild before we got serious. You were my only real relationship. I jumped into love and never looked back. But lately, I've been feeling something I don't totally understand." I sat there, frozen, trying to follow where she was going with this. She continued, "There's this young guy at work, his name's Jason. We've been flirting a little, harmless stuff at first. But today something just clicked. He looked at me in a way that made my heart race. We didn't touch, didn't cross any lines, but I felt it. And when I came home, I couldn't stop thinking about him. That's part of what made me so overwhelmed with desire. It wasn't just about you, it was about me. I needed that release." My heart pounded in my chest. I didn't even know what to say. And then she dropped the real bomb. "I'm not talking about an affair," she said quickly. "Not love. Just one day. Just sex. I'd never stop loving you, Billy. You're my husband. But I can't shake this feeling. I need to do this. If you love me the way I think you do, you'd understand and let me have this one experience. It doesn't mean anything. It's just physical." Her voice cracked slightly. "I don't even know exactly what I'll decide, but if I do go through with it, I promise I'll make it up to you. I can't ignore this need anymore." I could hardly believe the words were coming out of her mouth. "Emily, how can you even ask me this?" I said, stunned. "You're already breaking something sacred. You're justifying something that's going to tear us apart." And what I didn't know then, but would soon find out, was that she'd already made plans. This wasn't a hypothetical. She told Jason to pick her up that Saturday. They'd go out for brunch, then check into the Hilton for the entire afternoon. Afterward, they were going to have dinner, maybe go dancing, and then head back to the hotel for more. She wanted the whole experience. All the sex she could fit into one weekend. She planned to come back Sunday night, say goodbye to Jason, and then, just like that, recommit herself to our marriage. To me. At least that was her plan. She'll get over this, I kept telling myself. But deep down, I knew I couldn't just sit back and wait for Emily to come to her senses. If there was any chance of saving our marriage, it had to start with real communication. I decided my only shot was to convince her to cancel the weekend with Jason and instead agree to go to marriage counseling with me, try to figure out what was really behind this sudden urge to sleep with someone else. Wednesday morning rolled around and Emily stirred awake. She reached across the bed, probably expecting to find me there beside her. But when her hand met nothing but cool sheets, I imagine that's when it hit her. I hadn't come home. She got up and checked the guest room. Then the couch. But my car wasn't in the driveway and the house was quiet. That's when she must have realized I never came back the night before. Meanwhile, I had made a different kind of decision. One that was about protecting myself, just in case. I went around the house and made a careful inventory of everything that was truly mine, things that held meaning, things I didn't want to lose. After that, I headed to the bank. At the bank, I shut down our joint credit card and opened a new one in just my name. I closed our shared checking account and started a new one that only I had access to. Then, using the joint account, I prepaid the mortgage for the next 2 months, just to be responsible. With what was left, I split it down the middle. Half went into her account via a check and I transferred my half into my savings. That afternoon, Emily and I talked again. She was frustrated, emotional. "You're twisting this, Billy," she cried. "Jason's not someone I'm falling for. This isn't about love. It's just sex. One time. That's it." I stayed quiet while she laid it all out. "Yes, I talked to him," she admitted. "He's picking me up Saturday morning. I'll be back Sunday evening. And Monday? Monday I'm going to blow your mind. I'll be the most affectionate, sensual, loving wife you could imagine." "You already were that," I said, barely able to hold back my sadness. "But if you go through with this, you won't be that anymore. Not to me. You'll never be that again." She flinched at my words like they slapped her. She backed away into the kitchen, probably wondering how I could be so unyielding, so unwilling to understand. Maybe, for the first time, she was beginning to believe I might really leave. But the truth is, something had already broken between us. And even if she couldn't see the cracks, I could feel them deep in my bones. Still, she wasn't ready to let go of her plan. Emily was convinced that this experience with Jason was something she needed. Her desire, her obsession with him, it had grown to the point where it drowned out everything else. Logic, love, consequences, they were all being muffled by this burning curiosity. So she tried to meet me halfway. "I'll still go through with the weekend," she said, "but I'll go to counseling after. I'll work on us. I promise." But I wasn't sure if there'd be an us left after that weekend. I guess reality finally caught up with both of us. Whatever bubble I'd been living in, the one where I thought our marriage was unshakable, had burst. Never in a million years did I think this would happen. And the worst part? Every minute that passed, I had to fight the overwhelming urge to track this guy down and beat the daylights out of him. A friend of mine, Mark, who'd been by my side through all of this, looked at me with that same burning frustration in his eyes. "Listen, Billy, if things really go south, if you decide you need to settle the score, just say the word. I'll be there." I gave him a tired half-smile. "I'll think about it," I said. "Appreciate it." Before leaving, he added, "Hey, by the way, I'm switching phones. I'll text you the new number so we can stay in touch." And then came that strange, bittersweet moment. Emily walked up to me slowly and, to her surprise, and mine, I pulled her into my arms. For a moment, I just held her. I gave her a long, slow kiss, the kind we used to share back when we still believed nothing could touch us. Her eyes lit up like she thought everything might go back to normal. "Molly," I said softly, "why don't you go upstairs, take a shower, put on something nice? Bring down a gin and tonic, and once you're back, I'll throw dinner on the grill. Let's have one last beautiful night together. Maybe it'll be the last one, but tonight I want to honor what we've had." She hesitated for just a second, probably wondering what the hell she was doing, questioning whether any fleeting moment with someone else could possibly be worth losing this. But that stubbornness of hers, the one I used to admire when it was about her dreams, had latched onto this idea like she couldn't let go. I was already up early the next morning, clinking around in the kitchen making bacon and eggs. Coffee was brewing. She walked in wearing her robe, drawn by the smell of breakfast. Her eyes still had a softness in them from the night before. "Billy," she said gently, "last night was incredible. That's what I see for us. That's our future. I love you so much. Thank you." I didn't say a word. Just kept cooking. "Do you want me to make some toast or something?" she asked, trying to pull me into some version of normal. I turned, looked at her with everything I was holding inside. She reached for me, maybe a kiss, maybe just a hug, but I backed away and stopped her gently. "Our night's over, Emily." She froze. "You made your choice. You chose one weekend of meaningless pleasure over the man who promised to stand beside you for life. Whatever this morning was, it doesn't undo that." "Billy, please," she begged, "don't say it like that. This isn't what you think. It's not love. It's not even about him. It's about me. I deserve this just this once. You've had your past, dozens of women you've shared yourself with. I've had no one. Nothing. I just want to feel that once. That power. That excitement." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. Later, alone, I found myself staring at our wedding album, 40 photos frozen in time from a day that once felt like the beginning of something unbreakable. That album used to bring me peace, comfort, even joy. But now it only twisted the knife deeper. Each smile, each kiss, each moment captured in that book felt like a lie. And the more I looked, the angrier I got. In a moment of pure anguish, I rushed out to the garage, grabbed a box cutter from my old toolbox and stormed back into the house. The wedding album was still lying open on the table, mocking me with every photo from a day that now felt meaningless. I started slicing through the plastic sleeves and the photos beneath them, deep, deliberate cuts. On some pages, I didn't stop at just scratching the surface. I tore out the parts of the pictures that held our faces, the smiles, the joy. Then, one by one, I tossed those shredded fragments into the fireplace and watched them curl and burn. Meanwhile, Emily was in a hotel room with Jason. What she thought would be electrifying, this escape, this wild fantasy, ended up feeling hollow. She later told me it felt more like being with a distant cousin than a passionate lover. Whatever physical attraction she thought she had conjured up in her mind had fizzled. Jason wanted to rush back to the room and seal the deal, but she kept delaying, ordering round after round of drinks until both of them were stumbling drunk and barely able to make it back to their room. When they finally did, she stripped off her clothes without a word, collapsed onto the bed, turned her back to him and passed out. She woke up the next morning with a pounding headache and the sour taste of regret. At some point, she must have realized the experience she'd built up in her head was nothing more than a disappointing, blurry mess. Later, she told a friend she wished I'd been there for her first and only wild moment, as if that somehow would have made it okay. "I'm shocked he didn't wait for me," she said, as if my heartbreak had a pause button. When she walked back into our house Sunday evening, something felt different right away. Not visibly at first, it was more of a feeling. But then, as she stepped into the living room, she noticed it. The oil painting that hung above the fireplace, the one of Moonlight Bay that my uncle painted, was gone. So were the sculptures of the bison he gave us and most of my sketches and artwork. Quietly, carefully, I'd removed the pieces of myself that once filled our shared life. I had done what I could. I pleaded with her. I told her if she stopped before crossing that line, we still had a chance. We could go to counseling, rebuild, rediscover what we once had. I begged her to see what this would do to us. But she brushed it off, called me immature, accused me of being overly dramatic. She told me I was overreacting, that it was just sex. That I should be the bigger person, the understanding one, and if I truly loved her, I'd let her have this one indulgence. But love doesn't ask for betrayal as a gift. I tried to pull her back from the edge. I really did. But she jumped. And in the wreckage, I did what I had to. I gathered my pride, my heart, what was left of it, and I took back the pieces of myself she could no longer claim. She burned down the house we built with her own hands. And as you can see, I've stepped out of the ashes, not unscarred but standing. I took the box cutter to our wedding album. Every cut, every torn piece was like carving out the dreams we once had. You'll see the scraps still sitting there in the fireplace. If you feel like lighting them, go ahead. Seems like a fitting cremation for what our marriage used to be. I also sent an email, one I never thought I'd have to write. It went out to everyone, our friends, family, coworkers, anyone we were connected to. I told them the truth. That you chose to cheat and that I chose not to accept that. I told them I was leaving. No lies, no excuses. Just honesty. You've got a couple of days to gather your things. After that, I need space. I need clarity. As for me, maybe, just maybe, if I reached a place where the pain no longer outweighed the love, and if I could see real remorse in you, not just guilt but understanding, then maybe I'd consider opening the door to a conversation. But even then the odds feel slim. I don't even give it a 25% chance. If it ever did happen, it would be a long, slow crawl back to anything close to what we had. Emily had to face what she'd done. She had to look her parents, our friends, and even her coworkers in the eye and explain why she threw everything away for one meaningless weekend. No one really understood it. And truthfully, I don't think anyone ever will. Jason, this guy she threw it all away for, he wasn't some charming, mysterious stranger. He wasn't even 6 feet tall, but somehow he always seemed larger than life. Maybe it was the constant scowl he wore, or those jagged scars on his face that almost had a bluish tint in the right light. He carried himself like someone you wouldn't want to bump into in a dark alley. I guess I should be grateful he was never truly a threat to me. But knowing he touched the woman I once held as sacred, it still cuts deep. And me? My name's Jack Anderson. I run a modest little company called Horizon Distribution. We handle bulk shipments of DVDs, CDs, and other media. Not glamorous, but it pays the bills. I've got a 17-year-old son, Ryan. He's doing everything he can to get into a military academy. Doesn't care which one, he just wants to earn it. My wife, Cora, works claims for a network of smaller insurance agencies in the tri-state area. As for Darlene, well, she never had much interest in working. And honestly, I was okay with that. I always felt that a peaceful home mattered more than another paycheck. We had enough. We were happy. Or at least I thought we were. Funny how quickly things change, huh? I stepped out to the car, not really sure what I was hoping to find. I opened the trunk and looked through the bags Emily had left there. Whatever they'd purchased had already been taken out, so the bags themselves felt more like a whisper of a secret than proof of one. I didn't even know which bag belonged to who, but I still checked through each one. Inside were a few promotional handouts and some receipts. Both of them, Emily and whoever she was with, had bought baby doll-style lingerie. 2 pairs each. One receipt totaled $65, the other $72. Both were paid in cash. That detail hit me harder than it should have. Emily never pays in cash. She puts everything on the card, even small stuff. Cash meant intent. Secrecy. Deliberate effort not to leave a trail. The whole thing left a heavy feeling in my chest. That night we were all at a family dinner. Ariel made an announcement. She had the chance to start a summer session at Duke, but she'd have to leave in less than a week. Darren didn't like the idea much, but when we took a family vote he was outnumbered. Roger, my son, then spoke up. He told us he wanted to do a year at the Marine Military Academy down in Harlingen, Texas, before jumping into college. I turned that idea down before, mostly because of the cost, but that night something had shifted in me. Maybe I just needed to support someone who knew exactly what they wanted. When I agreed to it, Darren gave me a strange look. He didn't say anything, but I could tell he was wondering what changed. Lately, Cora and Darren had been going out a lot together, to book clubs, card parties, and these odd little shopping events. Thing is, Cora doesn't read, she hates cards, and she never buys a single thing at those parties. So what's the draw? I hadn't brought it up. Not once. Did you say anything to her? Someone asked me once. Hell no, I answered flatly. If I accused her of something and I was wrong, my life would become a circus. I'm not saying a single word until I've got something solid. Deep down, I had a hunch something was off and I wasn't going to ignore it. But I needed more than a gut feeling. I transferred a file from my phone to my computer, and within 2 minutes, I had hard copies of every detail, along with a headshot of each man involved. One click, and the image popped up on my screen, their faces staring back at me like ghosts from a story I hadn't written. The guy helping me looked up from his screen with a sly, knowing grin. Ready to get down to business, Mr. James? Absolutely, I replied. Less than an hour later, we had an agreement. The numbers were settled. Everything was in motion. I was satisfied. He was satisfied. But Bobby? Well, Bobby was about to get hit with a cost he hadn't seen coming. Because even though I didn't have all the facts yet, I knew one thing for sure. If I sat on my hands any longer, I'd lose what little grip I had left on the truth. And I wasn't about to let that happen. I sat the kids down and finally told them what was going on. Ariel took it in with a kind of quiet understanding. She's always been mature that way. Roger, on the other hand, didn't take it so well. He looked upset, confused, maybe even betrayed. I couldn't blame him. This whole situation was something no teenager should have to process. Still, both of them were caught up in the excitement of their upcoming plans. Roger had no idea that I'd already pulled the strings to get him into the military academy he'd been dreaming about. When he found out, his face lit up in a way I hadn't seen in a long time. It gave me some hope, maybe a sliver of peace in all this chaos. Ariel was even more thrilled when I told her she could take Darren's old Volvo with her. She hadn't expected that at all. Seriously? She laughed, her voice lifting. I thought I'd be catching a bus. I told her she could hit the road as early as she liked, and to think it over while cruising down Route 81. She left the room floating. Not long after I got off the phone with her, my phone rang again. It was Pierce Donovan, our division chief and the man responsible for new site setups. He sounded serious. Said he needed me and Gloria to come up to headquarters in King of Prussia the next morning. Gloria was excited about it. She always liked shaking things up, tackling new challenges. I, on the other hand, had mixed feelings. I couldn't explain why. It wasn't about the job itself. I still loved the work. But something in my gut made me uneasy. Still, I agreed to pick her up in the morning and head north. Everything seemed to fall into place more smoothly than I expected. Too smoothly. You can relax, I was told. Everything's been taken care of. Thank you, I replied. You've been a true friend. I only did what you paid me to do, came the reply. I chuckled. Then why does it feel like more than that? Be careful, Mr. Anderson, he said with a grin. You don't want to mistake business for something it's not. We both laughed, though neither of us could say exactly why. Later, I got word that folks at work had heard rumors about my situation. One colleague reached out, someone I barely spoke to usually. Sorry to hear about what happened, he said. Hope there aren't any consequences. I'm holding up, I told him. But I am curious, how did you find out so quickly? There was a pause. People talk, he said. And they're waiting. Hoping it'll all work itself out. They're going to be disappointed, I said plainly. And what do you think your next step should be, Mr. Anderson? At this point, I sighed. There's nothing I can do. We wait. Either someone comes forward or they don't. And if they do, it'll get messy. Especially since it happened outside the U.S. Where? Jamaica? Yeah. Not exactly the kind of thing you file with local authorities there. It'd be awkward to say the least. So now I wait. For what, I'm still not sure. Justice? Closure? Forgiveness? Maybe none of those are coming. But I'll be ready for whatever does. I think you've stirred up quite a mess, Gloria said, half joking as I circled the airport again for the second time. I hadn't parked, I just kept looping around. When I finally pulled up, she opened the door and looked at me. John, why didn't you just come in and help us with the bags? It's a hassle trying to juggle everything. It's a hassle parking too, I muttered. This just seemed easier all around. As she climbed in, Cora turned from the back seat and asked, Where's Bobby? He and the boys got tied up. I told him I'd drop you off at the house. We merged onto the road and for the first few miles no one said a word. The silence between us was heavy, almost loud. Darren kept his eyes out the window, clearly in his own world. I could tell Cora was chewing on something. Why couldn't she wait until I got back? She finally asked, voice strained. What was the rush? I don't know, I replied, keeping my eyes on the road. Maybe she just couldn't stand waiting anymore. She sighed, glanced at her phone, then looked up. All of Roger's things are gone. Where is he? He's with me, I said quietly. We're on our way to Texas. He's finally getting that shot at the military school he's talked about for years. Texas? Without even talking to me? She snapped. I'm his mother, John. You don't just make that decision alone. He packed up everything just like Ariel did. We talked it through. He's going to be gone for at least 5 years. He was ready. Her voice trembled, more hurt than angry now. And you didn't think I deserved to say? I'm part of this family too. There was no good answer. I'd made my choices and in some ways they'd been about survival, not fairness. Then came a moment I didn't expect. As the weight of everything hung in the air, Cora suddenly shifted from heartbreak to accusation. You're smiling, she said, her tone sharpening. Is this funny to you? I froze. What? 2 good men are dead now because of you, she hissed. Don't play dumb. You could have stopped it. You didn't pull the trigger, but you arranged it. We all know that. Cora. Did you report it? She demanded. Did you even tell anyone? Or did you just walk away like none of it happened? Her voice cracked with fury and grief. When did you find out they were dead? Who did you tell? I didn't answer. What was there to say? Because the truth was, no, we hadn't told anyone. We hadn't reported it. We hadn't done a damn thing. And now it was too late. Without another word, I turned, opened the door and left the house. I drove straight to Wendy's and sat down with a sandwich I couldn't even taste. I watched people come and go, everyone caught in their own little dramas, unaware of the storm I was sitting in. Just before noon the next day, Detective Danny Green showed up at my office. He asked if I'd come down to the station. I agreed on one condition. I'll drive myself, I said. And he let me. I think he let me drive myself so he wouldn't have to deal with the awkward ride back. Truth is, he didn't seem all that bothered that I had shown up at the station in the first place. We sat there and talked, 3 hours maybe more. Eventually I got on the phone with Glenn Ross. He smoothed things over, worked the right angles, and by the time we were done I was cleared to leave. Glenn even managed to get me a copy of Darren's statement regarding what they were calling an alleged murder. Certified, stamped, and ugly. According to their account, which I took with a heavy dose of skepticism, Darren and another man had been tied up and hauled across rough mountain roads for over an hour. That's their story anyway. I sat quietly, sipping from a cup of coffee one of the uniformed officers had brought me, and gave a faint nod. The details were hard to believe. They claimed both men were stripped naked and locked in a goat pen. Yes, an actual goat pen, with bars on the doors and windows like some makeshift prison. The next morning a ransom note went out. $110,000 for each man, delivered straight to the women who had accompanied them. By then the story had already hit the front page of the local newspaper. Doran and Cora were named outright. I could already imagine the gossip spreading through our entire social circle. Friends, family, coworkers, all of them with questions. Some would pretend to be shocked. Others would act like they knew it all along. On the way home I stopped at Taco Bell for a quick bite. I didn't taste a thing. That night I got another call, this time from Malcolm. "How are things on your end, Mr. Anderson?" "Couldn't be better," I replied, though we both knew that was a lie wrapped in pride. "I'm impressed," he said. "You handled this well." "I always try to, Malcolm." Then he got quiet. "A few days ago I mentioned the possibility of something opening up down here." "I remember." "Well, Mr. Anderson, I've got good news, and bad." "Let's get the bad out of the way," I said. He didn't hesitate. "The cruise ship Silver Star docked this morning. Your wife was on board, with a male companion." His words hit me like ice. A chill crept up my spine and settled there. "And the good?" That wicked grin crept into his voice. I could almost see the glint of his gold tooth over the phone. "She was on a special list, flagged by the Jamaican authorities. With passport travel now standard, it was easy to track her arrival." "What does that mean?" "It means she's being released, but not without paperwork. Some embassy folks are patting themselves on the back, claiming they had her sentence reduced. But we both know who made that happen." I never got to speak to her directly, but I saw her. From across the tarmac. She was wearing a powder blue maternity dress. Smiling, kind of. There was something haunting in that expression, like she was pretending everything was fine, even as her world shifted under her feet. That was the last time I saw her. And I never planned to see her again.